Who did it better? Western Influence Through China and Japan, 1890 to 1920, by Peyton Bennett. Between 1890 and 1920, both China and Japan went through a variety of changes. 1894 brought the First Sino-Japanese War, the Qing dynasty clashing with Japan over Korea. China's defeat in the 1899 Boxer Rebellion resulted in sanctions imposed by the West that permanently weakened Qing rule. Japan won the Russo-Japanese War in 1905. In China, Western education revolutionary Sun Yat-sen fueled the Xinhai Revolution of 1911, culminating in the Wuchang Uprising, and 15 provinces declared their independence from the Qing dynasty. The Republic of China was founded in 1912. In 1912 in Japan, Emperor Meiji died and his eldest son took the throne, starting the Taisho period. Japan allied with the U.S. and Great Britain in World War I, lasting from 1914 to 1918. The Treaty of Versailles was enacted in 1919, and the Communist Party of China was established in response in 1921. Each of these events in both countries brought about different levels of influence from the outside world, particularly the West. Japan gained more Western influence than China due to the country's consistent cooperation over the years. This, combined with their clash with China during the Sino-Japanese War and the surrendering of Taiwan, Japan saw cultural influence from China as well. China also experienced a large amount of outside influence due to the establishment of concessions in coastal cities and their cooperation with the U.S. and Britain in World War I. This is apparent in the artwork found during this time period, as many artists were beginning to travel outside of their home countries to study outside of tradition. The paintings in this exhibition start from the early 1890s and extend to 1920, originating from both Chinese and Japanese artists such as Kuroda Seki and Wu Changshuo, some focusing on traditional painting styles like Guohua in China and Nanga in Japan, others converting to their newly learned art styles, all demonstrating change and growth in the art world of the time. In the room ahead are a variety of paintings from China and Japan making use of 3 different mediums from across the eastern continents of Europe and Asia: oil and canvas, ink and paper, and color on silk. Our first painting of the exhibit is Spring Offerings, painted by Wu Changshuo in 1919. It was made using ink and color on paper, found in many styles of traditional Chinese painting. The painting imitates epigraphs, inscriptions found on statues, buildings, and coins. Though the painting contains subjects found in nature, the image is classified as an abstract instead of one originating directly from nature. The round brushstrokes and distinction between form and blank space are similar to what is found in epigraphs. The painting presents a feeling of calm and peace through the gentle yet bright color palette. Next, we have Orchid, also painted by Wu Changshuo in the early 20th century. The painting is ink and color on alum paper, folded into the shape of a fan. Orchids are an emblem of quiet, even hidden virtue, and a subject well suited to rendering in ink alone. The visual of the painting is soft, quiet, and serene, giving the viewer a sense of peace and tranquility. The soothing color palette is successful in creating this environment on the page. Wu's muted palette is elegant and understated, but enough color is used to satisfy turn-of-the-century taste. Orchid is one of the 4 gentlemen, alongside plum, bamboo, and chrysanthemum, symbolizing humility and perseverance. Plum, painted by Chen Henke in the early 20th century, is done in ink and color on paper. This is another painting where the background utilizes blank space to draw the attention to the subject itself. The subject of the painting is a gathering of plum blossoms, still attached to their branches. The painting gives a sense of calm and happiness, and the few buds on the branches that have yet to bloom give an impression of new beginnings. The strong interaction of color and ink, decorative appeal, and calligraphy updates the traditional flower painting that had evolved in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. Chen's freer brushwork and bright color mark a direction that Chinese painting would take in the following years. Kiyohime at the Hidaka River was painted by Murakami Gakaku in 1919. It is a color on silk hanging scroll. The piece is based on a legend concerning Dojoji Temple in which Kiyohime, a woman in the reign of Emperor Daigo, fell in love with a priest and pursued him to the bank of the Hidaka River. Carried away by rage, she eventually got the priest incinerated with flames that she herself kindled. This particular scene is just before the heroine transforms into a large serpent. Murakami presents Kiyohime with her eyes closed, accompanied by a lonesome pine tree and a stick thrown away to convey sadness and grief. This is accomplished with soft lines similar to those found in Hishida Shunzo's Wang Xiao Hun in 1902. Wang Zhaoheng was painted by Hishida Shinzo in 1902 using color on silk. Wang Zhaojun, said to be the most beautiful woman in China's imperial palace, was sent to marry the king of Xiongnu during the reign of Emperor Yuan in the early Han dynasty. This painting is color on silk and painted in the more traditional Nanga art style. The main focus of the painting is Chinese Princess Wang Zhaoheng and the group of palace women watching her from behind. The faces of the women are all composed, avoiding any semblance of individual emotion. Their faces are also featureless, making each woman look like the last, eliminating any sense of individualism or uniqueness they might have had in real life. This is an example of Hishida's so-called Morotai, or vague style technique, in which he avoided the use of distinct lines. The artist's skillful shading creates a fluid texture and dreamy atmosphere. Next is Woman Plucking Grasses by Kurosaki, painted in 1892. The painting depicts a working peasant, a subject often painted by Jean-François Millet, a French artist and co-founder of the Barbizon School in rural France. The viewer's eye is not drawn to the woman, but to the building behind her that stands out against its surroundings. The painting is overall light and invokes a feeling of tranquility and joy. This painting was erected while Seki was studying under Raphael Collin in France. While studying under Collin, he learned the artistic style of plagiarism, using in the painting above. He later brought the style back to Japan and taught a number of students as it evolved. South Wind was painted by Wada Sanzo in 1907. This painting uses a light color palette and is painted in great detail. The use of oil paint was still uncommon in Japan during the Meiji era, suggesting Western influence on the artist. The direction from which the light originates is very apparent, and the artist uses a variety of shadows to accentuate this. The colors of the subjects are vibrant and pigmented, contrasting with those used in the background, creating an illusion of distance between the two. Despite the depiction of what appear to be Western men, the island in the background resembles that of Japan. Wada introduced more stability and a center focal point using a pyramidal composition commonly found in Renaissance and religious art. Our final painting is a portrait of Vasily Yaroshenko, painted by Nakamura Sune in 1920. The artist used a very monochromatic palette as there is little variation in color and it is difficult to identify the subject. The harsh brushstrokes are characteristic of those used in Western painting at the time. The painting ignites a feeling of heaviness due to its more serious tone. Vasily Yaroshenko was a blind Russian anarchist writer, translator, Esperantist, linguist, poet, and teacher, as well as a friend of Nakamura. He wrote in Esperanto and Japanese. Yaroshenko first came to Japan in 1914. He left to explore other Asian countries before returning in 1919 to become a dependent at Nakamura, a baker in Shinjuku, Tokyo. That will be it for our tour of the exhibition. I hope you enjoyed.